You mentioned that there's rumblings in Pittsburgh about Kenny Pickett not being the guy. Look, I don't want to raise my hand and sit here and say that's me, but yeah, no, I do not believe in Kenny Pickett as the franchise quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, I know that Matt Canada is not a very good coordinator. He's not a good coordinator at all. Not just not very good. He's a terrible coordinator. And there's serious questions on Pittsburgh's ability under Mike Tomlin to develop an offensive line, develop a run game, and sustain offensive success. Aside from a 3-year stretch with Ben, Bell, and Brown, we also had probably the best offensive coordinator that we've had under Tomlin's tenure during that run. So that should be noted as well. And so for a franchise who's very defensive focused, very culture, we do things the right way, sometimes you kind of gotta, go out on a limb and take chances to improve the offensive side of the football. It's 2023. If you follow us on TikTok, you see how frustrated I've been with Bill Belichick's rigidity about not moving and not pivoting to caring more about the offensive side of the ball. I think you could argue the same for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, first of all, to still have Matt Canada as a coordinator is insanity to me. I mean, to not have a 400-plus yard game in, almost 60 games now? That's ridiculous. Everybody else in the league has had at least 3 or 4, I believe. That is just, that's inexcusable. There's no excuse for it. And some of that was with Ben, right? Some of that was with a future Hall of Famer. His last season with a future Hall of Famer, you couldn't get above 400 yards? And Kenny Pickett, look, I'm not saying he's great, but there are some things there where you're like, okay, I can see, especially in the fourth quarter, he's got some accuracy. He's got a little bit of special to him, but they just can't put it together. If you find yourself making excuses for your quarterback, that's how you know that you should probably pivot off that quarterback. That doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean they're not going to get a shot somewhere else. But if you find yourself consistently and habitually making excuses for your so-called franchise quarterback, that's how you know you don't have the franchise quarterback. Think about this just this past offseason. Daniel Jones is 6'4", and he can move, and we're talking he's good. We just got to get some weapons around him. Before Brian Dable, he just didn't have the play calling, and he needs more weapons. No, they actually went out and acquired weapons and got Darren Waller, a good tight end, who, yes, he's now on the IR, but for most of the seasons thus far, he has been active. They re-signed Saquon Barkley, spending a ton of money. They shored up the defense so he doesn't have to win shootouts. And what are we hearing out of New York? Maybe he's not the guy. Well, yeah, I could have told you that last offseason when you were making excuses for why he only had 17 touchdown passes in quote-unquote his career year. Are you kidding? 17 in his career year? You want to talk about career, actually, speaking of, Kenny Pickett's got 13 total. Let that sink in. I mean, Sam Howell, on the road in New England, basically a rookie quarterback. He had one start last year. Basically a rookie quarterback on the road against the best coach to ever live against rookie quarterbacks. That's fine. 20-17, win. He's got 14 touchdown passes on the year. Kenny Pickett, 13 in his career. C.J. Stroud, he's a rookie, by the way. Just want to let that be known. He's got more touchdown passes than Kenny Pickett. He's played, 8 games? 8 games? Josh Dobbs arrived to the facility on Wednesday. Learned not even the playbook. The 25 most important plays that he needed just for Sunday. Didn't even know the plays when it came to the fourth quarter. Kevin O'Connell's explaining them in his ear. He's on the sideline with the offensive line, getting them to get used to his cadence. He doesn't even know the names of the guys blocking for him or the guys he's throwing to. It's fine. Fourth quarter comeback, just lead him right down the field, 31-28. Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell's coach gets fired. Now, I'm not saying I like Josh McDaniels, but coach gets fired. Offensive coach, developed one of the best quarterbacks of all time in Tom Brady. Decent offensive mind, at bare minimum. Gets fired. Hey, kid, by the way, you're starting. That's fine. Win 30-6. We can keep making excuses for Kenny Pickett. At some point, enough's enough, and you have to go win. You have to go win. Will Levis. I thought Will Levis thoroughly outplayed Kenny Pickett on Thursday night. I didn't think it was particularly close. I thought you looked at that game and said, yeah, arm, movement, moxie. He's got everything. He's got, you check. Size, arm, accuracy, throwing off platform, toughness, can move the ball with his legs if he needs to. He's got that kind of swagger about him. He's a little bit arrogant for me, but still, I think guys in the locker room like him. They can rally around him. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett doesn't, but we're sitting here making excuses. Well, hey, he's really good in the fourth quarter. Yeah, well, we're down 2 touchdowns for a reason, because he sucked for 3. He's not a very good quarterback, point blank. We can keep lying to ourselves. You're going to end up in the same position that, I don't know, New York's in right now. Go ahead and lie to yourself about Kenny Pickett for another year and a half. Then what happens? What are you going to pay him $45 million? Then where you at? Then Minka's got to go because you can't pay him. Then you don't have any linebackers. Then after TJ Watt, you got nobody up front. Then you got one good receiver instead of two. Then you got one good back instead of two. Then you got, well, you already have a bad offensive line. That'll stay bad. Right? Like, we can keep lying to ourselves about Kenny Pickett. At some point, you have to wake up and be like, if we keep making excuses, like, is there a chance he's not the guy? Considering, like, we've seen other quarterbacks around the league go into worse situations and be significantly better, i.e. CJ Stroud, i.e. Sam Howell, Josh Dobbs, Aiden O'Connell. Those are all significantly worse cultures and significantly worse teams than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they all have been significantly better in either less time, less preparation time, again, worse rosters, worse receiving cores. You're trying to tell me CJ Stroud throwing to Tank Dell and Nico Collins is better than George Pickens and Deontay Johnson? I'm telling you, you're just flat wrong. But he's making plays happen. Kenny Pickett cannot make plays happen. He is not the franchise quarterback. He's not. And here's the problem. Pittsburgh's all loyal. I'm going to get a ton of blowback on this video. Oh, but Kenny and the offensive coordinator is bad. Okay, so you got to do something. You have to show me something. We're going to ride with him for the next 5 years, and then finally 5 or 6 years from now, everybody will wake up and be like, "Oh, maybe he's not the guy." But it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late by then. It's time to move on. I think. Look, if I'm in that room, I've already made my decision. It's almost Thanksgiving. I've made my decision. Thanksgiving of year 2, my decision's made. That's it. Like Justin Fields, decision's been made. I'm moving on. I'm drafting a quarterback. For me, Kenny Pickett, I'm moving on. That's it. If I get a decent pick in this draft, if I'm anywhere in the top 15, 16, I'm drafting a quarterback. If Bo Nix falls to me, I'm drafting him. Jordan Travis falls to me, I'm drafting him. I can't watch this Kenny Pickett show anymore. It's not for me. I don't think he's the franchise quarterback. I think he's. Well, you tell me, what does he do well? What is his thing that he does? What's his trait that he does well? Arm, accuracy, he's okay, but he completes 59% of his throws before the fourth quarter. 59. Like, he's not that accurate. He moves good enough, but not good enough to not get hurt. He's been hurt now 3 times in a year and a half. So I mean, you tell me, what does he do well? I can't see a thing. I got a ton of guys in college that I can see things that they do well. I know a ton of guys in the pros the teams are going to move on. I see what they can do well. I don't know what Kenny Pickett does well.
Yeah, and the thing that you mentioned, the loyalty in Pittsburgh, the culture is going to be, I feel like that's it's such a two-sided coin. It can be one of the best things for the city, but also one of the most blinding and worst things, right? So you're going to lie to yourself about Kenny now. The problem is we've seen him miss easy throws, right? And what's that causing? Now George Pickens has deleted everything Steelers from his social media, totally scrubbed himself of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and probably is going to start
him, if we're going to be honest.
Probably start wanting to leave. If he had a good quarterback, could you imagine him in Kansas City? Kansas City needs a wide receiver. You know, the trade deadline's over, but
in the offseason,
could you imagine him in Kansas City with a Mahomes? He'd be great.
Yeah, he'd be fantastic.
There's a lot of problems on this team that I believe stem back to Kenny Pickett. It's just they are now in a situation where they have to make a decision that the Steelers organization has really never made before, and it's move off the guy quickly and draft a new quarterback just 2 years after you drafted your last guy. It needs to happen. I don't think there's any way that they win with Kenny. The Steelers, look, you have to have a quarterback. If you want to be any sort of competitive, and especially if you want to compete for a Super Bowl, you have to have a quarterback that is the best at something. He has to be the best in the league at something. It doesn't matter what it is. We've seen a lot of different recipes to win, and we've seen a lot of different types of quarterbacks win, but you have to be the best in the league in one area.
So, remember when Sam Darnold came out? This was before we had the podcast, but even when he moved to Carolina, we were big Sam Darnold supporters. I think Sam's got a lot of talent. First 2 years in the league, guess how many touchdown passes he threw?
Combined? Probably.
Yeah, first 2 years. So the first 2 years he started 26 games. Kenny started 21. Sam threw 36 touchdown passes. Kenny's thrown 13. Yes, he had a ton more picks. He had 28 picks. Kenny's also has 13 picks. Passer rating, 81. Kenny Pickett's pass rating, 78. Keep lying to yourself.
It's bad.
People ran Darnold out of town. And we're trying to defend Kenny Pickett. People ran Darnold out of town. People are going to now try to defend Kenny Pickett.
Doesn't make sense.
Good luck. Good luck. At least Sam had talent. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. It doesn't look good. I don't think anything's going to really come of Pittsburgh until Kenny's gone and they start working on that next guy. And you might have to do something a little, I guess, against the norm for Pittsburgh. Maybe trade up.
They don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. Make people uncomfortable. Who cares? Get rid of them. It's it. It's done. I don't understand what we're looking at. What do we keep making excuses for? Ship him and Canada out of town. Send them to Orlando. They're going to Disney World. And have them figure something out. We're done. This is not working.
It's about the only way they're going to get to Disney World.
Keep convincing yourself. Well, we have a winning record. Okay, fine. So, what are you going to get to the first round of the playoffs and get absolutely worked? I mean, what are we getting at here? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's bad.